This is the Vernon Salon Series that I founded about 4.5 years ago at this point. I almost said 3.5. I founded it in January of 2016. I've been running it out of my apartment ever since. And the purpose of this monthly salon is to bring together artists from different backgrounds, sometimes different places, visiting artists across the country, and provide a really friendly, safe, encouraging community for people to share their works, sometimes works in progress, um, sometimes music. In the past, we've also had speakers, we've had writers, we've had dancers, and it's evolved into a really wonderful monthly tradition. And even though some of us are still quarantined here, um, we're able to share this with you this evening via the powers of Zoom and YouTube Live. So I just wanted to say that it's been a hard week. It's been a hard few months, and we're really happy to be able to bring this to you at this time. It's a difficult time on the earth right now, and I really hope that that the music tonight gives you some encouragement and inspiration, and that you enjoy. So I'm very pleased and honored to introduce Jessie Nucho. She is a flutist based in San Francisco, California. She's coming to you direct from her apartment, zooming in. And I believe Jessie and I first worked together over 4 years ago on a few projects. And ever since, she's really taken off. She co-founded a flute duo. She plays with a lot of new music ensembles in San Francisco and elsewhere. And she's just a joy to listen to. She'll be presenting tonight 6 different composers, a few of them local. We have Cornelius Boots on the program, as well as Emma Logan and Julie Barwick, are our local San Francisco Bay Area composers. And I encourage you all throughout this evening to write in the comments on YouTube Live, and I can pass along some questions and comments to Jessie. At the end of the evening, she'll hop on the YouTube video and be able to answer some questions directly, so stick around for that. I also encourage you to donate to this event online. There should be a link at the bottom of your screen right there. If you can use Venmo or PayPal, those will be the best options for this evening. So I'm going to turn the spotlight and the sound over to Jessie. Give me just 1 minute to make that happen.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much, Anne, for hosting this tonight. We had originally planned that this would be in person in April, and of course, very quickly realized that wasn't going to happen. And so it's really great to be doing it anyway in this new environment. And yeah, as Anne said, it's been hard. The news is really bad in a lot of different ways. And so I hope that tonight, that in this hour, you can find a little bit of rest and that your soul can find some peace tonight. So I'm really excited about this program. It's a little different from what I normally offer. We have the constraints of being in an apartment, which means the yelling and the screaming and the really aggressive music isn't gonna work as well. And so this is a gentler program that I have that I hope will kind of touch you where you need tonight. So the first piece is by Cornelius Boots, and it's called Root of Ether, which is the beginning part of the phonic flute suite that he wrote for Arion Flutes in 2012. And so the phonic of the title refers to the underworld, as inspired by James Hillman's book, The Dream and the Underworld. The meaning extends, though, like beyond and below the earth into the invisible things that we cannot see. And so this journey to the underworld, if you will, is a solo undertaking, but rooted from the self into the other. Oh, and for those of you who might not know, this is a bass flute, which is my new favorite instrument, a new acquisition that I've had the joy to get this year. And, you know, it's part of the flute family, but it is much lower than the flute. And like each instrument in the flute family, it has its own unique voice. And so you'll get to hear quite a bit of this tonight. And I think that Cornelius Boots is online listening tonight. So just a quick hi to you. Thank you for writing this awesome piece. And I'm glad I got to play it tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jessie. What a beautiful piece. If you're all just joining us out there, anywhere in the world, this is the Vernon Salon Series, streaming to you live on Friday evening, May 29th, here in Oakland, California. Jessie Nucho is our featured soloist of the evening, based in San Francisco, and she just performed a piece by local composer Cornelius Boots. I'm giving Jessie a little break in between these first couple pieces. As per her request, she's changing flutes, and we'll be playing a total of 3 different kind of flutes tonight. And so next on our program, we'll have a piece. She'll be performing a piece by C.P.E. Bach, the Sonata in A minor, and this is a 3-movement work. I'm going to pass it back to Jessie and let her talk about this a little bit.
So this piece, the Sonata in A minor for solo flute, was written by C.P.E. Bach in 1747, and this piece is a piece I always go to when I'm feeling really sad or when I just have a lot of emotions, and so I'm always coming back to it. And since March, I've been playing it a lot. So the first movement of this piece is, I think, one of the angstiest and saddest pieces written for solo flute. A teacher that I had in undergrad, Stephen Schultz, who specializes in Baroque music, talks about this movement, relating it to the Greek myth of Sisyphus, who is going up, pushing this rock boulder up the mountain, and just when he gets to the top, the boulder rolls back and he has to begin again. And so that's this movement, always trying to get somewhere and then always having to restart. And the second and the third movements depart from that, and we get a little more liveliness and a little more positivity by the end. you.
All right. Jessie, thank you for such a beautiful piece. What a wonderful sonata. I wanted to add that as you were playing, I was thinking that I always love hearing Bach on a program, especially in the middle of everything, because it really it brings your listening in. It kind of brings the focus right in, right away, and then what it does is it kind of it allows you to hear everything differently, what came before and after as well, at least for me. So what a beautiful piece. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to give Jessie another minute to change flutes again as she gets into her third piece there. Nucho. Oops. Sorry if I was missaying your name. We have our next local composer on the program, Emma Logan, who I believe is also in San Francisco right now. Jessie will be playing a piece by her. And I wanted to add before I turn it back to Jessie again that please feel free to donate throughout the evening. The money donated tonight will support the artist, support Jessie, and will help keep this series running. As it has been for the last 4.5 years. So you can do so at your convenience, either through Venmo or PayPal, whichever is easiest for you. And I'm going to turn it back to Jessie now. Give me one.
Hi again. So during this time in lockdown, shelter in place, one of the hardest things is not getting to see, our friends and our family. And so as I was thinking about music to play in general, but also for this program, what is the most meaningful for me is playing the music that is written by my friends. And the composer of the next piece, Emma Logan, is one very good friend of mine. We've been friends for the last 7 years living in this city. And this piece was originally written for clarinet in 2019 and has since been played by a few instruments. And so in March, Emma and I worked out which of the flutes would be best suited for this piece. And so we arrived on, again, the bass flute. And so this piece is short and sweet and inspired by both Impressionist music and ragtime as well. And so I think you're joining us tonight. And so thank you so much for turning this into a piece that I can play. So even though I can't see you, then I can still play your music. Thank you. Thank you, Emma, for this piece. It's been a lot of fun to play.
All right. Thank you, Jessie. Thank you, Emma. That was awesome. I have to apologize. I've been mispronouncing Jessie's last name for so many years now. I just realized I've known Jessie for 5 or 6 years. It's Nucho, not Nucho. So this is Jessie Nucho. She just completed her third piece out of 6 for the evening, Emma Logan's piece, and I'm giving her a little time again to change flutes. So Jessie will have 3 more pieces now presented all in a row, but please do stick around for the end because we'll do a little Q&A. She'll hop on the YouTube chat, but we'll also keep the video stream going. And since this is my last little shout out for a while until the end of the program, please donate to the artist this evening. You may donate over Venmo or PayPal, and this will help support Jessie during this time. I'm gonna pass it back to her. Give me 1 second.
So thank you, Anne, and thank you again, everybody listening. It's a very weird experience as a performer to not play for an audience, but to be playing for a screen, because what we do is all about sharing our music with people. And so I know that you're out there receiving this music, so thank you for being there. And I'm very glad to have a small live audience of my housemates who have heard me playing this music for the last month. And so now they get to hear it in context, along with all of you. So these next 3 pieces, I'll tell you about all of them now, and then I'll just go ahead and play them, because to me they respond to each other and kind of comment on each other, even though they, on the surface, have nothing to do with each other, weren't written by people together, but I think they belong as a unit. And so the first is a piece by the composer Shiva Feshareki called She Cried. And this piece she wrote in 2007, originally for solo untrained voice. And what she says about this piece is that this is a simple, melancholic piece dealing with isolation and loneliness in an overwhelmingly suffocated environment. And that has felt very appropriate in this time where we all feel so isolated from each other. Even with all of this technology to connect us, we're still very much in our little apartment or house bubbles. And then after that, I'll play a piece by Katherine Hoover called Kokopelli. And Katherine Hoover was an American flutist and composer. She wrote this piece in 1990, inspired by the Kokopelli legend, which is a legend of the Hopi Native Americans. And Kokopelli was often pictured with a flute. He was a legendary hero of the Hopi tribe and would lead migrations in the southwestern United States, going through the mountains and the desert, leading through the echoes of his flute across these spacious landscapes. And so Katherine Hoover wanted to capture that into her piece. I hear it as this echo, kind of a call into the wilderness, but hearing only an echo in reply. And then the final piece on my program is a piece by another good friend of mine, Julie Barwick, who is also in San Francisco. And this piece is called Little Things. And she wrote it, let me get the year right. I didn't write the year, I believe 2014 she wrote it. It's part of the San Francisco Conservatory of Music viola project. I don't play viola, you may notice. And so we worked in the past month to create a version of her piece for solo alto flute. And this piece called Little Things is called that because Julie has these little musical ideas that gradually unfold and evolve into longer ideas. And whereas the Katherine Hoover Kokopelli has this kind of question that doesn't get answered, to me, Little Things answers that. So I'll leave you with that. Enjoy. Thank you again for being here. And each piece, of course, uses a different flute, so be kind of switching around in between. Thank you. Thank you, Julie, for that beautiful piece. I love that I can play it on the flute. And thank you again, everybody, for joining us tonight. And of course, thank you, Anne, for the years that you've been doing this series. It's been such a joy every time that I've participated in one. And so thank you for having me tonight.
I'm going to unmute myself, but leave it on you, Jessie. So everybody's still looking at you unless you need a break.
I'm okay.
I wanted to encourage people, if you're on the stream, to stick around a little bit. We're going to do a Q&A once we gather ourselves after such an amazing set. The last set there, Jessie, the last three pieces reminded me of, you talked about it in your introduction a little bit, but just the words that came to mind were quiet determination and solitude. And some loneliness, and I think that's really apt for this time. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Jessie, I know you haven't been able to read the comments because you've been playing the whole time, but they've been amazing and very complimentary and very encouraging from far and wide. So as I leave the video on you, I want to still encourage people to donate to support Jessie for this evening. This is part of the Vernon Salon Series. It has been going for about 4.5 years continuously, every month, other than a few breaks in the summer every once in a while, or due to something like this. We didn't hold one in March of this year or April, and then I started these 2 streaming events. So please, in your comments, everybody, if you have any questions, if there's anything you want me to say to Jessie, if you want to hop on the YouTube link, and maybe just make sure you mute it, because I forgot to do that earlier at the start of the evening. It looks like we have about 40 people watching right now, which is really amazing. I'd love to have 40 people packed into my apartment, but It's not to be this evening. And if people want to write in we have a question right in the bottom. I'm looking at this. What was the last song called? It sounded like the Mandalorian theme song. Okay, Jessie, what was the last song called?
The last song by Julie Barwick was called Little Things.
Little Things. Okay, great. I had a request to do it split screen. Let me see if I can do that. Give me 1 second, Jessie. Okay, my tech crew is doing it across the room. Um, hold on, I need to cancel the spotlight. All right, and now we're gonna try for gallery view. All right, it looks like we've got both of us up there. Hello, Jessie. Nice to see you again. All right, and I'm gonna unmute Jessie because it did that automatically. There we go. All right, so it looks like we've got some donations rolling in. If anybody wants to say in the comments where they're coming from in the country or across the world, if you're on the East Coast, I want to thank you for staying up late. I know it's getting on to be about 11:30 there. It's about 8:30 here right now. Anything else anybody would care to add? Shout out to the tech crew. Oh, yes, shout out to my tech crew across the room, aided by a very helpful but lazy cat. Jessie, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your program, or perhaps how you chose these pieces together, or in what order you chose? What was your thought process maybe behind that?
Well, at the outset of this, I think I had mentioned this earlier tonight that originally we were planning to do an in-person show in April, and the pieces I had been thinking for that, it just became clear immediately, that's not going to work for this. Too dependent on other people in the same room, or too tech dependent. Ironically, this is the most complicated setup I've had for an entirely acoustic program. So
Right.
it was assessing, well, what can I practice in my apartment with thin walls? What music do I feel like playing, honestly? Because for many weeks, I think like all of us, couldn't really do much. Just emotionally, it was too hard. And so I found I didn't want to be playing the music I might normally. And so I went for the music that spoke even more to my soul. And also as many local friends as I could, because we're not physically connected. And so that was my way of bridging that gap. And then I arrived eventually on this program. Some pieces like Kokopelli I've known about for a long time, never played it. And so I got motivation, with, hey, there's a chance to perform it for people, a deadline. And I really love the piece as well. And then I gradually pieced them together and figured out what pieces belonged together. So we say, okay, these are all independent pieces, and yet by putting them together in one program, I'm saying they do belong together. So the journey was in figuring out how.
Wonderful. We've got a couple more questions. I'm looking at the YouTube stream here. What has changed about your performance preparation for a live stream versus in person, if anything?
Well, it feels in a way that there's much more pressure because this video lasts on the internet. And that's very daunting as a performer, knowing, oh, your wrong note or wrong expression or incorrect breath, these things that we obsess over, are going to last forever. And so, that is challenging. And at least for myself, so much of my performance, I gain so much from being in a room with people.
Yes.
And it's very hard, as all of us are learning, not to have that.
Right. Sort of the wordless communication, and the also wordless, the back and forth you get from the audience, right? You can feel their energy. You can sense very, very small things going on. We have another question. Due to the weight of the bass flute, is it not the kind of instrument one would play continuously for an hour or more, or is it more a matter of developing chops? Oh, and that's coming from a sax player. So just curious about, I think, holding it and playing it in your chops around the bass flute.
Oh, that's a great question. Um, it's a heavy instrument to hold, and the position of it laterally, like a transverse flute, is not super comfortable. And so I have to be careful as I'm practicing and considering performance context as well, kind of the impact that will have on my body.
Yeah.
This instrument is newer for me, so this season has been the first that I've really been practicing the bass flute a lot. It is its own instrument, and so I definitely have felt like the strain, like in the back, in the arm, and so I always have to be careful to take breaks. Um, not, I have yet to program an hour of bass flute music, but I'll let you know.
Okay. And it looks like we actually do have even another question. Um, how much time do you practice for a performance like this?
As much time as I have.
Okay.
Um, which in a season when there's not much going on is, you know, a lot, which means a lot of room to obsess over
Hmm.
all the little things. Call back that back to the program,
Yeah.
um, and but it also means more time to enjoy the craft and think more intentionally about every gesture.
Mm.
Um, so I don't have a good answer to your question because it varies
Right.
a lot.
Right. Great answer though. Sorry, one more, Jesse. Two more maybe. To follow up, is there a worse flutist knot on your right shoulder now with the bass flute? We have a knowledgeable audience.
Can you ask it that again?
Oh, sir. I will say it again. Is there a worse flutist knot on your right shoulder with the bass flute?
Flutist not?
So I've heard that flutists develop, a little bit going back here because of the way you hold it. So I think this person is curious if it's worse with the bass flute if you feel like a strain on this side.
I think a little bit, yeah. I suppose the time it took me to answer your question means it's not too much, which is nice. But I think with all these things, it's a matter of being wise in how you practice, taking breaks,
Mhm.
um, making sure I make sure I hold it in a way where actually for me, I put most of the weight onto my left. So the flute tends to get heavy on this side
Mm.
and on this hand position. Um, and so by getting more of the weight onto my left, that helps offset strain on the right.
The balance. I
Yeah.
see.
And the place most likely to get any kind of injury um, can be on the right, especially as we're, bearing weight in a way that that muscle doesn't love to do, or that tendon doesn't love to do.
Mm.
But I found with balance, with breaks, um, it's fine.
Hmm. And it seems like the bass flute has really caught people's imagination and attention here because somebody was also wondering why has the bass flute become your favorite?
Oh,
That might be the last question.
the true answer is I love all my flutes. Um, the bass flute I think has this really special sound. Um, if I'm feeling very in love with my instrument, I would say a very magical sound. Um, but it has a very unique quality in both the lower notes
Mm.
that can get this deep resonance to them. But then the high notes of the bass flute are really special.
Mm.
Um, and each instrument has its own qualities, and those qualities on the bass flute I find very mysterious, and just it's been a lot of fun to explore the realm of things that can be done on that instrument. Because it's so big, it can be this amplifying chamber, and so any little thing that I do with my fingers or with like a syllable or something that I make gets amplified down the flute. So it's very cool.
That's wonderful. Well, it looks like we've reached the end of our evening together here. Thank you everybody for joining us. I want to say a deep thanks for Jessie for playing this evening. It was a really wonderful set. I'm so happy we could reach across the internet and make this happen together. If you have not donated and you are moved to, I encourage you to this evening to support Jessie on such an amazing set, such amazing pieces. Thank you for sharing all these composers. Some of them were new to me tonight. And you may do so, you may donate. The links should be on your video there for Venmo or PayPal. So whichever one is easier, please feel free to go ahead and do so. This link will be up for a while on YouTube. So if you would like to pass this along to folks who maybe couldn't tune in tonight, that would be lovely. You could tell them about the Vernon Salon Series, tell them about Jessie, tell them about donating. And I will leave you with that on this Friday evening as the sun is setting here in Oakland. Please everyone be well, please be safe. And until next time when we can hopefully do this again soon and hopefully in person at some point again too. So thank you everyone again. Thank you, Jessie, and have a lovely evening, everyone. Bye.